Hey everyone and welcome back to the Extreme Gamerz. The last generation has undoubtedly been one of the most fascinating console generations in history, which has catapulted gaming into a whole new level. As the releases of the Xbox Series S and X and the PlayStation 5 bring an era of gaming console to a close, we take a look back on the best of the previous generation. Here are the top 10 best video games of the 8th generation of consoles. It's easy to look at Overwatch as Team Fortress 2 with a Marvel Studios budget, but that would undersell just how important Overwatch has become in the last few years to the gaming community. It is now its own esport, and for good reason. In its enormous roster of 32 playable characters, every one of them is different, not only in how they look, but how they play and feel. The maps are gorgeous, and even though the game modes are the same as every other team-based multiplayer shooter in the past 20 years, there's so much variety that it feels like every other game is a brand new. As time has gone on, many games have tried to duplicate Overwatch's success. That none of them have been able to do so says all you need to know about Overwatch. Beyond the stellar gameplay, graphics and mechanics, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is one of the few narrative-driven games to truly feel like a blockbuster movie. With the foundation of Nathan Drake's story laid by the first three installments, this final chapter of the story weaves a tale of buried treasure, brotherhood, fate, and compulsion with a shocking level of convincingness. Every level is carefully constructed, every character has been drawn in color, every moment is earned. It's one of those rare games that you actually don't want to race through, which is a sign of a great game. You know that the sooner you beat it, the sooner the thrill will end. The magic of Rocket League is its blend of accessibility and mastery. It's instantly fun to pick up and play without feeling overmatched or bewildered, but its advanced techniques reward continued practice. The game's floaty physics aren't for everyone, but they hit the sweet spot for me, and the point system rewards unselfish play, helping prevent multiplayer matches from becoming pile-ups under the ball. Fast, chaotic, and almost impossible to put down, soccer as played by rocket-powered cars is the indispensable sport that I never knew I needed in my life. For a time, Horizon Zero Dawn was one of Sony's biggest gambles. After the lukewarm success of Guerrilla Games' PS4 launch title Killzone Shadowfall, Sony entrusted the studio to launch their next big exclusive. Touted as the game to fully display all the awesome power of the PS4, it was too big to fail. But then it came out. Horizon is just a great game. It wows with its top-of-the-line graphics, sound, and unique post-apocalyptic world filled with all sorts of robotic beasts. It also threads the needle of creating an original massive open-world experience with an engaging science fiction story and hinges the gameplay on the idea of a man fighting back against more technologically advanced creatures dominating the earth. The thrill of defeating one of Horizon's monstrous T-Rex-like Thunderjaws by outwitting and outrunning the beast by a few hairs, while hearing the creature's mechanisms boom, whiz, and roar as it chases after you before you finally take it down, is exactly the experience you want in a game about fighting robot dinosaurs in the far-fallen future. Ghost of Tsushima is one of the best games of 2020. There's been a plethora of samurai-themed games in the past 2 decades, but none of them matched the level of greatness from the team at Sucker Punch. Ghost is a rare open-world game with zero load time that allows for seamless gameplay as you go from village to village, wiping out enemy Mongols. While the gameplay itself isn't hard or impossible like its counterpart Sekiro, the cinematic aesthetic and the storyline is unmatched. It's one of the most beautiful games I have played on my PS4, and the camera mode within the game turned me almost into a professional photographer. The story mode doesn't take too long to beat, and finishing the game just requires some extra hack and slash. But Ghost of Tsushima also leveled up recently by launching their multiplayer mode. I haven't had a better experience playing a video game last year. The wait for a good Spider-Man video game was too long. You could literally spend endless hours just web-swinging across Manhattan or skydiving from Avengers Tower, perfecting your web-swing. Marvel Spider-Man makes you feel like Spider-Man. You also could customize all your tech and weaponry. You could figure out the best way to defeat your enemies, either with web traps or hand-to-hand combat. You could appreciate that this is the story that introduced many to Miles Morales and pulled in obscure villains like Taskmaster, Mr. Negative and Tombstone. Marvel's Spider-Man is a must-have, worth wasting hours upon hours no matter how you choose to do it. And it's also one of the most easiest platinums you could get on the PS4. Maybe it was inevitable for such a highly anticipated game, but upon the release of The Last of Us Part 2, the discourse quickly became a minefield of complaints, both valid and invalid. But months later, what we are left with is one of the most thrilling, heart-wrenching games of this generation. Escaping on horseback through a burning cult village as war breaks out, dodging sniper fire on a Seattle highway, tiptoeing across the rusted beams of a post-apocalyptic skyline hundreds of feet in the air, are some of the most jaw-dropping set pieces ever presented in a video game. The score, the voice and the character acting, the unconventional narrative structure, the graphics, equally gorgeous and equally horrific, should not be taken for granted. It is everything you could want from a sequel, an unforgettable playing experience that will long outlive the reactionary takes. God of War is gorgeous and emotionally affecting, and probably the best example of a soft reboot in a long-running franchise. Set in a new, Norse mythology-inspired world and starring a familiar but thoughtfully reimagined character, God of War's fish out of Greek water tale is a non-stop whirlwind of emotions. It's all framed by one continuous camera shot that never cuts away or takes the focus of the heart of it all, Kratos' relationship with his young son Atreus. But the story also encompasses an indelible supporting cast, a gorgeous world consistently rewarding to explore, and immensely satisfying combat. I expected great action from God of War, and it delivers that handily. But what I didn't expect it to be, a thrilling journey in which every aspect of it complements the others to form what is nothing short of a masterpiece. Scenic, sprawling and overflowing with a depth of detail that only several years of a big budget development could impart, Red Dead Redemption 2 transported players to a world that would almost swear existed independent of the person on the other side of the screen. As the sun rose and set, NPCs went on about their routines, buildings and railroad tracks proliferated, and wildlife roamed the wilderness. In those acres of picturesque landscape, players could lose themselves in hunting, treasure seeking, or sightseeing, and for a few hours forget about the plot. But the story of Dutch's doomed gang was equally compelling, saddled as it was with the familiar rockstar tension between providing a sympathetic protagonist and empowering the player to behave badly. In its follow-up to one of the best games of the previous generation, Rockstar broke the prequel curse, reimagined the Western, and set a new standard for convincingly crafted immersiveness. A word of warning: The Witcher 3 is so fully realized that it will forever alter your experience of playing other open-world games. It's also so enormous that it might take a lifetime to complete. Taken together, these two qualities make it an honest-to-God triumph, an adventure of incredible possibility and rewarding fiction. An open world is generally not a good way to tell a good story. There's little guarantee, after all, that a player will actually learn of a quest before accidentally stumbling on its reward. The Witcher 3 makes those occasions feel like mysteries to unravel rather than glitches in the system, whether they involve political intrigue, potential romance, or eerie monsters lurking in the dark. The sheer amount of crackling dialogue puts most other RPGs to shame, and most of it is hidden away in decision trees that would take countless playthroughs to complete. The Witcher 3 manages to hold its spell throughout, for hundreds of potential hours and through two vast DLC spin-offs that can be called independent games in their own rights. It's an all-timer in its genre, its format, and eventually, it is the best game of the previous generation. We hope you enjoyed the video. Give a like to this video if you did, and let us know in the comments what are your top games of the previous generation. Subscribe to the Extreme Gamerz channel for more gameplays, top 10s and benchmarks. Take care, and we will catch you on the next one.